Hello, 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 attendees of the California STEAM group. We are here at our next session. We want to thank you for joining us at the symposium. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our session with our lead presenters here with you all. If you have questions for the presenters, we welcome you to share them in the chat. If you'd like to join on screen to ask your question, please use the raise hand feature and then turn on your audio and video on Zoom. We'll get to as many questions as possible. Thank you to all of our sponsors for supporting this year's symposium, especially our presenting sponsor, Chevron. We invite you to learn more about our partners in the sponsors tab on the platform. At the end of the session, we'll share a survey link in the chat. Please take a moment to fill it out. We appreciate all feedback and you could win prizes. And so now I will turn this session over to our presenters at this time. And we have Todd Valentine and our other co-host for this event today, Miss Roseanne Nanzan. Did I say that right, Roseanne?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, you guys are on the floor and I'm going to go back to the background. Have a great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. So yeah, like she said, my name is Todd and joined by Roseanne. We're both coordinators with 49ers EDU, and hopefully you guys can see the screen that I'm sharing. We're going to be talking about our partnership programs and some real world opportunities for students. And we're really glad that you joined us today. I know there's a lot of choices to go through. Hopefully this presentation will kind of help us think about the way that we use the community partners assets that can be in our classroom. And so yeah, we're excited to talk about all this with you tonight.
Thank you, Todd. So if you're not familiar, I just want to go over a little bit about what 49ers EDU is. For anyone who doesn't know, we've been around since 2014, since Levi Stadium opened, where we now, our team now plays all of their games. Moved from Candlestick to Levi Stadium. And we feel that we've been very successful at building a support system for Bay Area teachers and students. Every year we work to improve what we do, develop our lessons, create new lessons, and branch out where resources allow us to do so. As we all know, spring 2020 changed the world for all of us, and it was challenging for everyone. We found our program, our flagship program, which is our field trip program, unavailable and inaccessible. We couldn't bring anyone here, and we weren't even allowed to be at the stadium. So we took an opportunity to find ways, ideate how we can still deliver our program to students and teachers without having them here in person. So we created a virtual learning platform for everyone. We also created lessons that could be viewed by anyone online, and also created a digital playbook that we normally would hand out hard copies of. We put everything digital so that everyone who had internet, it was accessible to. So we came up with an area that shelter in place stayed a lot longer than any of us ever expected, and it's still going on today, as we know. But we found a way that would be really helpful, and that was to tap into our partnerships. We got created with them, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So I have a couple essential questions. This is part of a lesson that we share when students, when we're doing it either in person or virtually. And I'm going to ask you guys to be our students today and just answer these simple questions. What's your favorite STEAM subject and why? And if you could type it in the chat, that would be great. And have you participated in any of our 49ers EDU programs before? And if you want to put your answers in the chat, we'll try and take a look at them. And Todd, if you can join in and maybe check out the chat with me and see if we have any answers.
Absolutely. Yeah, just for fun. So essential questions is something we get the lesson started with. So while you're thinking of your favorite subject and maybe why, or typing it in the chat right now, my favorite subject is science. I got into science in high school when I took a forensic science class, just happened to be offered. I realized that I really loved that topic and just dove into it. So starting at community college and then on to getting my degree, I ended up with an AA in environmental science with a certificate in paleontology, a degree in anthropology, almost a minor in geology with all the courses I took. And then I ended up doing a master's program in education so I could tell everybody about all the cool stuff that I learned.
Thanks, Todd. So a little bit about myself. I favor math. Math happens to be one of my favorite subjects. However, I wasn't always good at it. It wasn't something that came very natural to me, but I worked hard and it became super, super important and connected as how math is in everything that we do. So when I was going to school, a traditional trajectory for me would have been in the arts. We even had home ec back then. However, I wasn't really, I loved doing all those things, but I wanted to know more. I wanted to know how planes fly. I wanted to know how TVs work or radios worked. So fast forward, I found myself being really interested in those things more than anything else. And I went to school and became an electrical engineer, and I worked in the tech industry for many years before coming to the 49ers. So I see we have some activity in the chat. Let's see what we have here.
We're all over the map. This is great.
Yeah, it's everyone has, I see science, art and technology, art again, math. So Kelly says she enjoys teaching math. That's awesome. Computer science. And Danny said that he didn't know EDU had even existed. So I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad we get the opportunity to tell you about us.
Yeah, and I think that's an agreement from Brenda too. So awesome. Yeah, glad that it actually does seem like anytime I talk to anybody about it, they're always surprised to hear it, which is great because, you know, you don't necessarily expect the 49ers to have a program like this. And so it's really just as exciting for both of us that we ended up landing a job doing this. So yeah, so we'll start telling you a little bit more about that. So let me move these things around a bit. And we can start talking about the community partnership piece of this. And, you know, with Chevron being a major partner with CDE and our STEAM Symposium, they've been a partner of 49ers EDU since the program began. And they actually happen to be a good representation of the kind of partnership that we're doing now and that we want to talk about. We pretty consistently find them doing work in the community, especially in the field of education. And it's kind of interesting because it was never a focus in our partnership that they would come out and participate with us. It just kind of, when it worked out, and it made a lot of sense. It made us feel really good, and it showed us that we could, you know, have this legitimate person that the students can connect to and see themselves potentially in that career, doing a job in that way, or just doing STEAM itself. In the same way that we have our logo and students usually see the 49ers and understand that they could be a football player or coach, we like to show them that you can be an engineer, you could be a teacher, you could be a lawyer, a doctor, all these different things that you know about, but at your favorite team, at your favorite company. And so it's really cool that they do what they do. So that's where it kind of led us to this program that we call STEAM Champions. It's something that kind of evolved out of this shelter in place that Roseanne was mentioning earlier, where we had to be creative and we had to think about ways that we could engage our students as well as engage our partners. So in discussing these things with our partners, we ended up understanding that we could give them a platform to just be present in our programs, which is great. We want to show off the people who we partner with, the people who help make the team successful and allow us to do our work. And kind of before I get into a couple of stories about that, I wonder if any of you have invited STEM professionals, STEAM professionals into your classroom. And if anybody wanted to get off mute and talk about it, whether good or bad, can let us know, or you can type it in the chat. what we realized too with this, while we think about chatting or thinking about coming off of mute, research has shown part of what I was just explaining is that students see themselves in those positions when they actually see somebody who's a professional. There's a lot of work, in the small amount of work that's been done in informal education studies, that when a student is with a leader, with a guide, they end up learning a lot more and getting more into the subject matter, because they have that person there that they can ask questions of, have a legitimate feedback answer, not necessarily always believing us as a teacher if we're talking about something that is maybe not 49ers related in my case, or if you're in the classroom, could be any subject that a student may not be as trustful as somebody wearing the logo or in the lab coat or what have you. A couple of people have responded, not yet, so seeming like we want to, and something that's important. I think at any chance you can get that you would have a friend, a family member, something like that, because what we found is that people throughout the 49ers organization actually can't wait to get in front of those kids and just hear what the kids have to say, the kinds of questions that they ask, but also just get to be able to talk about what they do. Someone feeling excited to hear about what Billy's doing in programming and what Aaron's doing in our graphic design. So it's always a great treat for both parties. So
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's a lot of students are really shocked because they asked me, what did I do before I came here? And I said, well, I'm an engineer. And they're kind of shocked. They're like, how did you wind up at a football team? And I said, well, clearly I don't play football. But that's where we get the opportunity to introduce that there's so many other things to do, and all focused, of course, on STEAM. And they're really surprised. And I think it builds their interest in these careers. And they say, oh, I love math, but I never knew that I could make a career out of it working for my favorite team. So I think it opens up a huge door of opportunity for them to explore how maybe they want to gear their education towards, and maybe set their sight on an opportunity for a career that they might want. So it opens up a lot of doors for students when they get to talk to us and other people around the organization.
That's right. And as Roseanne was explaining, we took the shelter in place time to kind of take a step back, look at our lessons, find holes that we could fill, things that were missing, things that we were interested in. And it ended up leading to this cool story with SAP. So SAP has a really cool device, a cool piece of technology at our stadium called the Executive Huddle. And we were actually looking to do, because this is a hole in our program, we had a math lesson for 7th and 8th graders that we wanted to create. And so looking into it, we really like this idea of data, statistics, analytics, and we found out this Executive Huddle exists, and it helps our team track all of this information, like how many people come into the stadium, where they're going, how much food is being sold in what place, so much information. And basically what it does, it allows our team to identify potential problem areas where customers might be having a bad experience, and making sure we can turn that around right away instead of waiting for the next game and saying, well, we could have done something, let's do it next time. We can do it right now. And in learning about this, a few of us in 49ers EDU started creating this lesson. We taught it to our partners. So some of our partner schools like 49ers Academy and our SLI program at Cabrillo. And I guess SAP kind of got wind of this and kind of heard we were talking about this. They've been a partner of ours for a long time, and they got really excited about it. And they started asking, they asked right away, actually, can we come and speak before it? Can we have a speaker come out and talk to the kids before we start? And knowing what we know about professionals in education, we obviously wanted them to, and we got them to speak. They loved our lesson, and this kind of created this brand new partnership where we were able to purposefully go out and find professionals from SAP to come do our lessons. So like I said with Chevron, it kind of just happened. It was kind of more natural. This is the first time that we've actually like put together a program so that companies that we work with can get into our lessons and actively work with us. So SAP for the last year have been working directly with myself, with our director, Jesse, and now Roseanne and I are teaching a lesson about data analytics. It's a scalable lesson from kindergarten to 8th grade. For kindergarten through 5th grade, we teach kind of what data is exactly, and we have the students practice kind of just filling in data, understanding what it is, and that you can make decisions by using it. For our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, we kind of go a step up and we talk to them about what the executive huddle actually does, and we give them problems to solve using data. So we explain how we're able to use past events to make predictions for the future to make the best decisions possible. Let me see, we actually have a quick activity that we can do that kind of explains some of the ways that we make decisions.
So when we're teaching the lesson to the students, we talk about probability and how we can use data that or information that we've had from previous experiences to make educated guesses for what comes next or what we can expect. So one of the exercises that we do, I'm going to ask you to all do right now. So we would pose a question to a student. Now, everything that we do, we try to make relatable to so that the student feels that it's something that they recognize and are comfortable with. So for example, if we were asking a student to predict probability of something happening, we go through this timeline, this line, and explain, possible, impossible, equal chance. And I'll give them a scenario that something along the lines like, what is the probability of you going home from school today and you're having your favorite meal for dinner? So we'll ask them to do that, and we ask them to think about some things like, it's Thursday. Do you always have the same meal on Thursday? Did your parent or adult that you live with tell you what you were going to have for dinner already? So we ask them to use their knowledge and indicate on this line what the likelihood or what the probability is of them having their favorite meal today. So I'll ask you if you wouldn't mind just to do the same thing. Now it may be a little different because possibly you're the one making dinner, so you know whether you're going to have your favorite meal or not. But it just kind of puts things in perspective a little bit clearer for them when we give them situations that they can relate to, that they understand, and then we'll move on to a different scenario. But if you wouldn't mind, I'll pose the question for you all to put the probability of you having the day off tomorrow. If anyone wants to just put it in the chat or come off mute. Impossible, unlikely, likely, okay, impossible. 0 chance of that happening. Okay, unlikely. So you've made your prediction and kind of mapped out your probability of happening based on information that you have. Sometimes we have to guess. We don't have previous information, so sometimes we have to guess best that we can. Maybe thinking again like it's Thursday, using our timeline that we have. Todd, would you like to add anything here?
Yeah, we actually, so when we do this, we connect it to what they are going to make a decision about. So for dinner, for example, if there's a high probability that they're going to have their favorite food, for example, they might make different decisions about what they're going to do for lunch, say. Or if we ask them, what's the probability you're going to have homework tonight? And they can kind of use their reasoning skills like, oh, it's Thursday, so we have spelling homework or whatever it is. You can use that decision or use that probability to make decisions about how you're going to spend your time that evening. If you might do your homework in the morning, there's lots of different decisions that can be made around it. And so I just think it's a really fun game that you can play to kind of understand probability. And once we do that, we put numbers on it. So you can see that hopefully equal line. So you can see the 25%, 50%, 75, and 100. And we talk about how a lot of things in the world are not impossible or certain. Even though we may feel very strongly that one thing's going to happen, there's always chances, whether it's small or large, that things could happen. A teacher may be just feeling really, really generous today and saying, "Hey, free pass, homework's not happening today." That happens once a year for us. Or maybe something like dinner, like my mom never makes my favorite dinner, and then just so happens it's a nice treat, nice surprise, someone's in a good mood. So we never know. Something can always, something can always happen for us. And in addition to this, so this is an idea of using your own kind of intuition, your own understanding, what's happening in the world. We pair this with an activity that we like to do on the field where we play trash can football. So how many times can you throw the football into the trash can? And we get like a quarterback throwing percentage. And that's a way that we can actually show them an example of taking down data, even though it's just a small set, 10 chances to make a football in the trash can. How many can you do? But that's what the throwing percentage is. And when we use that as a football example, we see quarterbacks getting benched, other quarterbacks starting, the desire for a different quarterback to play. And so decisions are made on the football field too. And a lot of them now are done using hard data where we actually take numbers and we're making calculations and we're using our best ability in this situation where there are people who work for the 49ers who their job is math and figuring out these really tough problems, like whether to go for it on 4th down or to go for a 2-point conversion, whether there are 4 or 5 people lined up on the right side of the football, and what percentage chance that tight end has of running a route versus blocking. So there's a huge number of things that exist. And if students are interested in football, that gives them an idea of, hey, I might not be able to play football, but I really love math and I want to help my team. This is a really cool way to do that.
Yeah, we make the connection. We definitely want to make the connection that data and math go hand in hand. We'll even go through some math examples, how to convert numbers from a percentage to a decimal and things like that. We talk about ratios so that they begin to understand all these math concepts and how much of an important part they play in data analytics.
Yeah, so from a simple spectrum here, we can go so many different directions to teach, whether it's math, engineering, science. And just one more thing about the SAP lesson is now that we've done the kindergarten through 8th grade, this is allowing us to take our first venture into high school content. So as we prepare to move back into offering field trips and getting students in Levi's Stadium, we get to have our first chance to do high school lessons. So we are taking the SAP data analytics lesson to one level higher, and we're going to produce a video. So kind of like a YouTube video lesson where they'll watch as like a prerequisite. They'll come and visit us at the stadium and get some hands-on in the executive huddle suite. And then we'll do a video or a virtual lesson where we'll kind of go in and give them some problems to solve, where we're able to show them some of the, because there's a wide range from 9th to 12th grade math, we just kind of give them a lot of the terms that they're going to be using and explain what those are, so that when they see them next time, they kind of have that understanding of like, oh yeah, I did that, I can do that, I know what that word means. And so they'll have done the work at Levi's Stadium, which is really cool for us. But I want to tell you one more story about the next thing we're working on. So Stash is a financial literacy company. They're kind of making this subject accessible to students and to communities who aren't often given the opportunity to learn things about investing or smart money management. And so we've been working with them for the last maybe 6 months, maybe a little bit less, to come up with video lessons and a 3-year series of lessons to figure out how students can invest in themselves through learning. So by investing in themselves, they mean understanding what money is. For our kindergarten through third grade lesson, we're learning what the word spend is, what save is. And once we have that, we're intending to have the Stash professionals, they have their own curriculum. And so what we're doing is we're partnering with them so that we can get more kids over onto that site, because I don't know about you all, but I was not taught anything about money management, or at least nothing that I can remember, that's kind of prepared me for real life. And so we found that we agreed with Stash that this is a really big component that's missing in a lot of students' education, because a lot of times that stuff about data and percentages and stuff like that is towards the end of the year, and sometimes we don't get to it, which might have happened in my case. So we're working on a kindergarten third grade lesson, a 4th through 8th grade lesson, and we're going to be giving them information that's going to help kind of understand budgeting and saving, and tying it to how the study about 78% of former NFL players after just 2 years after retirement are struggling financially. Understanding that they may not have gotten lessons like they are getting the chance to have right now. And so whether they end up making $50,000 a year or $50 million, they're going to be able to understand that there are tools to use. And so that we all found that really important here for us.
And the unique thing about Stash is that it's an investment platform that allows you to invest in small amounts. Many of the big investor houses, you have to invest a large amount of money. So Stash allows everyone to build their financial future little by little, even if it's just starting very small.
Yeah, and so going forward, we're planning to open this opportunity up for other organizations, other companies that we work with. So I can imagine Levi's as Levi's Stadium, some other partners we think we've shown interest in. So hopefully that this can be a really cool way to get your students introduced to professionals in these areas, get them to understand some of the concepts that we all think are really important. And they'll be available on a lot of different platforms. So whether that's actually coming to Levi's Stadium and hearing from some of our staff here, whether it is looking at our video lessons where you can hear from people from Stash and use their platforms, or something like SAP where we're doing more virtual lessons and we're hearing from guest speakers on their terms. So we hope that those are some things that you can find useful for your classroom. If you want to book virtual lessons, we'll be booking those throughout the end of the year and into spring. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes according to plan and we are having students back here in spring and then throughout the next school year. Roseanne, anything else to add before we go to the last slide?
Not at this time. Thank you, Todd.
All right, yeah. So we wanted to just kind of give an opportunity for you all to ask questions. This is one of my favorite parts of all of the lessons that we do, just hopefully just hearing about if it's not about the presentation we just did, any questions about the 49ers working at Levi's Stadium. So those are the ones the kids ask the most, but hopefully you have some questions and we can have some conversations. We'll give you our contact information at the end and hopefully we'll see some of your students as well.
Yeah. If anyone wants to come off mute or put it in the chat.
Just feel free.
Thank you.
Oh, maybe I should open the chat and see them moving.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for this presentation. It was really, really good. No questions in the chat yet, but if you guys want to come off of mute and ask your questions or post them in the chat, that's awesome. Okay, there's one there and I'll let you guys take the floor again.
So someone is asking if we want to go to the stadium, do we fill out a form for each classroom or per school? So at this time, we are not offering in-person field trips. We're still doing everything virtual. We do have, under normal circumstances, we are listed on our 49ers community. There's a whole form to fill out. That comes to our admin and they do all the scheduling for the in-person field trip lessons. However, again, at this time, we do not have that opportunity yet.
But please reach out to, if you want to reach out to me, I'll go to the next slide right now so you can have our contact information. Reach out to me and we can kind of talk about what the virtual lesson signups look like, and when we do have the in-person signups available. We'll get you in touch with our colleagues on the other side of things, which is Sarah and Emilio. They are kind of on the admin side, they book the field trips. And so we'll get you in touch with them so that you'll be the first ones that are in contact once we do get started.
Yeah, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions, any comments. And if, we'll hopefully open up our in-person field trip soon. We just don't have the go-ahead right now for that.
What approaches help engage community partners in schools? And so I think that goes back to what we found out with our own staff at Levi Stadium is most of the people here want to do that and just don't feel like they have the platform to do so. I don't think most people in the community are reaching out to teachers or schools to say, hey, can I tell students about this? It's just about you asking them, making the ask. And I think more people than not are going to try to find that time to do so. So if you're in a classroom and you have, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock free on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm sure asking someone who you know through someone is going to be able to come through and if not virtually, come to your classroom. That's what I think we've seen. Roseanne?
Yeah, same. I mean, I know I've gone and spoken to my children's classes, talked about careers, talked about what I do now, where I came from. So yeah, there's a network of people to reach out to. If you're a teacher, parents love to come and talk about what they do. And yeah, so I think you have to kind of just reach out to all your network, and hopefully like I said, I think a lot of parents are very eager to do it, but they don't know if they can't have the opportunity if they're not asked to do it. So they look forward to that. Yeah. In my former role at a company called Sciences Elementary, we did find that there are some schools that just are near locations. So there's a school near Intel, and so the Intel sponsored them. I don't know how that came about, but I assume through the district or through the principal. So if you have a company that's nearby and you know what they do, you know the kind of products that they're making, and it fits with what kind of things that you're teaching, you can kind of go on that company-wide scale where a company can kind of sponsor a school by being a resource. Please feel free. Again, our emails are listed here, so you can email us anytime, and hope to see if you're teaching in a class. We hope to see you. Again, as Todd has mentioned, we do have a lot of virtual lessons and there's a lot of materials that are free listed on YouTube. There's videos kind of all across the board in different subjects that you can check out.